Indiana Jones could have been completely different than what we've seen on film. Could have been a Magnum Jones? This is the story, and I'm sticking to it. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Indiana Jones, an iconic character in cinema history, right? Who among us have not watched Indiana Jones, right? Whether it be the original Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Temple of Doom, or the Last Crusade, or the newer films. We won't go into those too much. Like many people, those newer films are not to be the best, in my opinion. But they're still fun, but they're just, you can't beat the original trilogy, right? But Indiana Jones, the character of Indiana Jones, it would be completely different if things would have happened in a certain way, right? We're going to delve into this today, and it's kind of interesting to look at. First off, Steven Spielberg and George Lucas wanted to create an Indiana Jones film, right? That's what they wanted. They wanted Raiders of the Lost Ark to be on film. But they shopped this around to every major studio and even smaller studios and everything, trying to find somebody that would be willing to let them make this film, and nobody wanted to do it. Just nobody wanted to do it. Everybody just said, yeah, it's not going to work. Nah, we don't want it. No, nobody's going to want to see it. Nobody wants to see an archaeologist. Nobody wants to do that. Nah, it's a waste of money. But they were persistent. They said, no, this is going to work. Somebody is the masses will love this film. We know it if we can just get somebody that will fund it. And so finally they got to Paramount Pictures, and Paramount Pictures said, we'll take a chance on it. But we're only going to give you $18 million to make it. Now, for people like us, normal everyday people, we would say, hey, $18 million, we'll take it. But when you think of a filmmaker and you have to do everything to make something like Raiders of the Lost Ark go, it's a little bit difficult, because there's a lot to it, right? So that's why 18 million didn't seem like much, but they said, we're going to try to make it work. And Spielberg was not their first choice to direct this film, but he promised, because he was known for kind of going over budget a little bit, and he said, I promise I'll work fast and I'll work under budget, and he was able to do that. And of course we got Indiana Jones and in the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the classic. Now the interesting thing too is that Indiana Jones, this is Indiana Jones, right? Everybody will say, this is Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford, right? But that's not what George Lucas and Steven Spielberg wanted. That was not their first choice. The first choice to play Indiana Jones, now get this, was going to be Tom Selleck. They wanted Tom Selleck to be Indiana Jones. But there was a problem. Tom Selleck was contracted and was was playing Magnum PI, and he was under contract, and he was contracted to be there. He had to fulfill that contract, and he tried to make different ways. Let's do so, and they just said, no, you are contracted to do this series, and you're going to do the series. That's just what it is, and so they had to go forward without Magnum PI, Tom Selleck, and so they went with their second choice, which was Harrison Ford. In my opinion, a great choice. But looking at it and thinking about it, I'm thinking, would Tom Selleck have worked? It's a possibility. I don't know. I don't know how it would have worked. I think it would have been kind of interesting to see Tom Selleck as Indiana Jones. Would it have worked really well? I don't know. I think Tom Selleck could have made it work. Would it work as good as Harrison Ford? Maybe not. I don't know. But it would have been kind of cool to see Tom Selleck as Indiana Jones. But let's be honest, looking back on it now, I can't imagine anybody being Indiana Jones but Harrison Ford, because Harrison Ford just embodies that character. I mean, it just is. And like everything, there's always talks of reboots and all this type of stuff. And to be honest with you, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in anybody, seeing anybody play Indiana Jones but Harrison Ford. Probably even if they do reboot it and they bring it back and they get somebody else to do it, I'll probably not even watch it, because to me, Indiana Jones is Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford is Indiana Jones. There's just nobody else. That's just me. When we look at Raiders of the Lost Ark, it is a epic film, right? And thinking about a lot of the different things, there's a lot that goes into this film that maybe you don't know about it. And that's what we're going to look at today, is some of the different things that went on in this film that you may not realize that was really not supposed to be part of this film. When Indiana Jones faces off against the guy with the sword, right? That was supposed to be this long, drawn-out, epic scene, right? It was supposed to be this big, long sword play type thing, but everybody was sick, man. I mean, the temperature was like insane. The heat index was terrible. Everybody was sick. People were sick with like food poisoning and different things because of the food and all, and everybody was just sick. And nobody was feeling good, and Harrison Ford was sick, and he just didn't. And they were trying to shoot this thing, and he just said, "What if I just go like that and just pull out a gun?" And so they shot it, and it worked, and it works so well because it shows Indiana Jones' laid back character. It shows it all the way around, that he didn't go through this whole big thing. He just this guy's going all crazy, and Indiana Jones just, that's it. It shows his kind of like character that you saw in Star Wars with Han Solo. Just that laid back, just whatever, bang, it's okay. And that's what works. That's what makes Indiana Jones work. Yeah, it's pretty cool. We think of the Well of Souls with all the snakes. Oh, now if you love snakes, then this wouldn't bother you. If you have a fear of snakes, this creeps people out. I'll be honest with you. I don't particularly care for snakes, and for me, that scene kind of creeps me out. It really does. I don't like them. I don't like snakes. I just don't like them. And to me, to see that, and to even see it sometimes, it just creeps me out so bad, because I sit and I think, ugh, what if I had to do that? Ugh, I couldn't survive. I couldn't handle it. I mean, I would just do it for me. But it's interesting because they had their snakes and they put them in the Well of the Souls, and they looked at it and they said, it's not enough. Can you imagine being the actors having to hear the this is not enough? No, it's plenty. It's plenty. We don't need any more. But they said it's not enough, so they sent the crew out to go to pet shops and zoos to borrow snakes and then buy snakes so that they could get we gotta have more snakes. It's amazing, right? It's crazy. When you think about it, one of the most iconic parts of Raiders of the Lost Ark is that big boulder scene, right? The big boulder just chasing Indiana Jones, right? That is a iconic scene, right? But it wasn't supposed to be like that. It was just supposed to be just a small little part of the film, just a minuscule part. It wasn't supposed to be anything really that major, right? But Norman Reynolds, set designer, brings this humongous 22-foot in diameter fiberglass boulder on set, and And Spielberg sees it and all, and he just goes, wow, we got to do something with this. And so what we end up seeing is the more iconic, more played out scene, because he saw how epic this thing was and he wanted to use it, because it was like, this, I can see something greater in vision with this iconic boulder. This is going to be epic if we use it right. And they did, and it is an iconic scene in cinema history. Yeah, but it wasn't supposed to be like that. It wasn't supposed to be that epic, but it turned out to be. Wow. You know, and they were trying to figure out what to do with Indiana Jones, right? Raiders of the Lost Ark. They wanted to do an Indiana Jones thing where Indiana Jones goes after something, but they couldn't figure out what it is. See, George Lucas, when he was thinking of it, that's what he was coming up with. He was like, what can I do? And fellow filmmaker, Philip Kaufman, you know, he kind of threw something out there. And this is kind of interesting because the MacGuffin, that's a term from Alfred Hitchcock. For those film fans that know what the MacGuffin is, you know what that is. And if you don't, Google it. We don't have time to go into that. This video is getting a little long, so we don't have time to go into that. But the MacGuffin, the thing that they were going after, if you will, they needed something and they couldn't come up with it. And the MacGuffin, if you will, was created by a dentist. Yes, it all came down to Philip Kaufman. When he was a kid, his dentist told him the story of the Ark of the Covenant and how it had so much power and all this type of stuff. And he brought that to Lucas, and Lucas said that would work. And so really the Ark of the Covenant in Raiders of the Lost Ark is all credited to a dentist. Yeah. Kind of interesting, right? Wow. This is pretty cool. Raiders of the Lost Ark really has become an iconic film over the years, and the whole series is just amazing. The trilogy is just amazing. I still love watching the Indiana Jones trilogy even after all these years. It is truly an iconic film and an iconic trilogy, and I can't imagine anybody being Indiana Jones but Harrison Ford. But wouldn't it have been interesting to see maybe Tom Selleck? I don't know. We'll never know. But it is pretty cool. All right. Well, thank you for joining me today on this episode of This is the Story, and I'm sticking to it. I thank you for joining me as we look back at Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to go to Classic Cinema Plus. We got tons of articles up there. You can check all those out. And please subscribe to our channel. Let us know. It lets us know that you appreciate what we do here. And be sure to leave a comment. We love to read your comics. Okay, so bring them on. Bring on the comments. We love to read them. And be sure to subscribe and hit that bell. And until we're with you next time for another This is the Story, and I'm sticking to it. This is Jason reminding you that if you want to see a great film or a TV series, check out a classic. We'll see you next time. Have a good day. Bye.